the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Please subscribe, click on that button right now, and let's get started. The Pistons lost again tonight, 24th in a row. 130 to 124 to the Atlanta Hawks, but Cade Cunningham put on a show. He was explosive. He scored 43 points, a career high, and he was just phenomenal at both ends of the court. He wanted this game so bad, you could tell, and he just played his guts out. But we got to see a better lineup. You know, when I say things about different players, it's not that I dislike them or whatever, but Killian was sick tonight, and Stew is out again, and we're better. And I think that Ivey got to play. He started out slow, but he came on in the second half, and he was electric. And he's lost his confidence on his outside shot. He just was so determined. If you watch the game, you could just see him attacking the basket. But Cade, anyway, he 44 minutes, 3 for 5 on threes, 3 steals, a block, and only 3 turnovers, 7 assists. And he took over the game, especially in the third quarter. There was a stretch where he was stealing, blocking, passing, scoring, and we cut the game to 68 to 63, down to 5, and then Trae Young hits a couple threes in a row, and we had some things go wrong, and they went on a big run, and that just pulled away from us. But we didn't give up. We kept fighting. First quarter was huge. I mean, they made 9 of their first 12 threes, 75% on threes. And I'm going to tell you, you can criticize our defense, and we leave people open sometimes on threes. And so, but they knocked down. They called a foul on us. It was a cheap foul, but they called a foul on us. So we were that close. We fouled them. Trae Young hit one from the corner that was he was falling sideways and backwards and out of bounds, and he made it at the end of the shot clock. And so he put on a show tonight too. Not as good as Cade, but he was the reason we lost. And he scored 31 points and had 15 assists. He just picked us apart. But I do not understand why we never blitzed him or doubled him like everybody does to Cade Cunningham. And another thing that we did that really bugged me, if you watch the game, there were times they would come up and set a weak pick and roll way up high on, like when Asar was guarding him, and Wiseman's man would set the pick, and we would switch right away. That's our scheme. Our scheme is to switch right away. But when it's Trae Young and you got Asar on him, and he easily could have got through the screen, and even after the screen was set and they switched off, they could have switched right back several times. But I just don't understand why teams. I'm watching a lot of NBA games, and when they have star players, they are getting doubled. I can guarantee you that the game after Desmond Bane scored 49 against us, he scored 16 in the next game, and I guarantee you that they were blitzing him and double teaming him right away. So I think and then another thing about Trae Young, he just jerks his head around. He's out there every second he wants a foul. He's crying all the time, and he's just gyrating his body and trying to draw fouls. He was 11 for 12 on free throws, and so Sasser has to do better. So I love Sasser playing. I want him to play more, but he fouled out in only 20. How many minutes did he play? 21 minutes. He got 6 fouls, and then Ivey fouled out, and they were both trying hard to guard Trae, but they got a little bit too close to him. And there's one time they got Trae pushed off and then flopped around, and then finally Sasser's hand inadvertently went out and touched Trae in the face, and he jerks his head back, and they call a foul. So there were a lot of bad calls, and we get the short end of the stick. And again, I watch a lot of NBA games. I'm going to tell you what happens in NBA games when there's crappy teams, like teams that are losing, teams like the Pistons. I don't think they're a crappy team. They're playing crappy, but they're not. I don't think we have a crappy team, but they don't get the breaks. The other teams get the fouls, and the teams that are losing a lot of games don't get the calls. I see it all the time, and it's not. And I'm biased towards the Pistons, but I'm not biased in those other games. But that's just what I see. There were times Bagley went to the rim once, and he just got hammered. Twice he got hammered going to the rim, and it just no call. And Asar was driving on the right hand side on the wing, and he gets completely pushed, and then and then he dribbles again after he gets pushed, but he gets completely knocked off balance, just really pushed hard, and he goes out of bounds, and then it's just out of bounds off them. So, like I said, that was a tough start. We got behind in the first quarter really bad, and so it was 25-38. So we dug ourselves a hole, and we were shot terrible. We got good shots. We were 3 for 12 for shooting. Like I said, they made their first 6 in a row, I think, threes, and so that's what it takes. We need to have a night when the other team's cold and when we're hot. And so we were hot. So it's tough to think we lose 130 to 124 when Cade has 43 points and Bojan has 25 points. And Jaden Ivey, he started slowly and he ended up with 15 points. So there's our 3 scorers. We struggle to score. We got 3 good guys that can score the ball. And here's Jaden Ivey. Last 10 games of last year, he scored 22 points a game, 7 assists, 44% from the floor, 38% on threes, 89% on free throws. And the first 14 games this year, he was on fire. He was well over 50% on twos and well over 40% on threes. And he's lost his confidence. Monty's jerked him around so much, and he plays 12 minutes, he plays 20 minutes, and then he hasn't started most of the season. But when he does start, and then he plays great, and then he doesn't play, and it's just hard for him. But he wanted this game. If you watched him attack that basket, he was going to the rim every time because he lost. He really improved his shot. I've said it over and over again last year so much, and he was even better this year. But now he's not extending his arm. He's not holding his follow through the right place, and he's just got to get that back together. I mean, he was even 3 for 5 on free throws, and he was shooting over 80%. Through the first 14 games or so. But we need to play him. We need to play him every game, 30 minutes at least. And I still think, so tonight, because Killian couldn't play, so then Ivey got to start, and then Stew couldn't play, so Bagley started. But then Weissman, he's been playing, and I know how many people hate him, and a lot of my listeners I'm sure do, but he is you can't deny. So tonight he was really good. He had played 25 minutes. He was 5 for 5. That's a pretty good percentage. I mean, I can even do the math on that one. 7 rebounds and 2 assists. He gets assists, 10 points. He had 2 games back to back. Prior to this, he scored in the 2 games. He scored 37 points, 20 in one and 17 in another, and he had combined the 2 games 19 rebounds, and not playing a lot of minutes. So thing that kills us, and again, I don't hate him, but Alec Burks, he was so phenomenal all last year consistently. It was unbelievable how consistently he shot, like 38% on threes, and he had some big games at the beginning of this year, and tonight he plays 23 minutes. He's 2 for 11, 0 for 2 on threes, and 2 for 2 on free throws, and it just, we have to have, Cade doesn't have to have 43 points, and I think Bogey can get 25 a lot of nights, but we have to have some other guys step up. But our post players, so Bagley, 23 minutes, 7 for 12, so that's a pretty good percentage. So those 2 guys together were 12 for 17, Marvin and James. And again, I know people don't like Bagley either, but he had 17 points tonight. Asar, I'm disappointed. He was 1 for 5 shooting, and things didn't go right. But he played 18 minutes. He had 8 rebounds in 18 minutes, and there was a stretch in the third quarter where we were out there with Harris, and we just had a terrible lineup that wasn't going to rebound. We had Harris and Sasser and Bagley, and they got multiple offensive rebounds, second chance points over and over again against us because we had nobody out there that could rebound, and we just needed to have Asar out there. So Harris is by all accounts, he is a great guy, and I know Monty's talked about how much the players like him and respect him, and he's been one of the best 3-point shooters in NBA history, not just in the NBA, not just the last 5 years, but he is not the same player, and he was not a great defender before he had the 2 ankle surgeries, but now he's even worse. But we played him 12 minutes tonight because we're short players, and that's just tough because he was 0 for 1, and that's a typical game for him. He plays 12 minutes and only gets 1, so the only reason he's out there is to shoot, but he gets blown by on defense. It seemed like they always switched him out on Trey, and there's no chance he has on Trey Young. And also then, there's a rebound down at the other end on the defensive end, and he was trying to box his man out, but he got called for a foul because he just was overpowered. So anyway, Jaden Ivey got to play 29 minutes before he fouled out, but he was 6 for 13, and he started out bad. His first quarter was real bad, but he fought back, and he scored 8 straight points at one point. He had 8 rebounds and 4 assists in only 29 minutes and only 2 turnovers. And just set him free, Monty. Let him play. And, I just want to see this lineup. I mean, that game had me fired up, and it's been so many of these games have been just no fun to watch. But tonight it was fun to watch. There's disappointments, like I said, of our veterans. We do need some veteran players. Teams that win needs some veteran presence that can play. And our 3 veterans, Bogey played great, but the other 2 veterans didn't. And, our only other veteran is Monty Morris, and he hasn't played yet. But Duran would have made a big difference tonight. Duran, those guys are good. They have 2 good centers. Capella and Akongu are both really good. But Marvin and James played really great, and Weissman, and they both deserve to play. But I'm telling you, Duran is better. That's just the truth. But Monty said after the game he's real proud of the way Cade leads every game and every practice and every day, and he's such a great leader. And Cade's out there scoring those points. DeJounte Murray is guarding him, and he's all defensive team. He's like, I don't know if he's first or second team, but he's one of the better defenders in the league, and Cade still was able to torch him. But yeah, it's still disappointing because it's still another loss. I know that a lot of my listeners are going to say, well, yeah, he played your lineup that you wanted, and they still lost, and you're right. But I'm going to tell you, it looked better, and if we can run out there until Duran gets hurt and play Cade and Asar and Bogey and Bagley and Weissman, those 2 split that spot, and then play Sasser. I mean, and again, I want to play Asar. If we're going to lose and we got nobody else to play except Joe Harris or Livers. So Livers tonight only played 4 minutes and was 0 for 3. Livers, bless his heart, he has just been bad. He's shooting. He's a 3-and-D guy, and he's not that great on defense in the NBA. And he tries hard, but he has shot he's below 25% on threes, and he gets open ones. And he's a shooter, but he's just has struggled. Our buddy Sadiq played really well tonight. He played great. He didn't shoot the 3 that well, and he was 3 for 5 on free throws, but he scored, I think, 21 points, and he played tough. But here's an interesting one for you. We're so good, desperate for 3-point shooters. This is true. I got a reliable source. I guarantee you it really happened. We were offered Duncan Robinson for Sadiq Bey, and we didn't make the trade. We turned it down. So here's the thing, though, about players. Keegan Murray, who we could use him, man. I wish he was. If I could be told right now, and we were told that we could draft a guy exactly like Keegan Murray with our first round pick this next spring, I would take that instead of gambling and seeing what else we could get. But he struggled. He hasn't shot well this year. He's a 3-point shooter. He's got a pure shot. He's only shooting 30%, not 31%, 30%. But he had 47 points last night, and he made 12 threes, and most of them were all in the third quarter too. It was just fun to watch him. I got to watch that. But anyway, Duncan Robinson. So here's the thing about I started to say is Duncan Robinson. He goes to Michigan. He plays Division III basketball, which is the lowest level of college basketball. He transfers to Michigan. I don't know how John Beilein found him, but he transfers there. Ends up having a really good rest of his career at Michigan, and then he goes to a tryout. He planned on being in the media. I think he was going to be an announcer or something. He knew he didn't have a chance to make it in the NBA. Then he makes it at Miami, and they have a really good developmental program. And then all of a sudden, he is playing out of his mind and shooting out of his mind, and he's making, 45% on threes and shooting 10 a game, and everybody knows he's going to do it, and he still does it. Then he started getting off a little bit, and so it's just like I said with Joe Harris. His only value is really on shooting the 3. That's what he gives us. He helps us space the floor. So with this lineup that we had out there, we did have better spacing. So Cade did better tonight. Well, we had a better lineup out there, so that made a difference. Um, but anyway, back to Duncan Robinson. I can't finish. Keep going around and around instead of telling my story. I'm sounding like my brother. But anyway, Duncan Robinson played great, and then they gave him this huge contract, like 80 million for I forget how many years, because he had played so well. And then all of a sudden, his shot got off a little bit. So when you're Duncan Robinson, you shoot 45%, then you're worth all that money. And then even if you're a little bit of a liability on defense, you can still stay out there. But then he started his percentage on threes started slipping, and his defense wasn't that good. So then all of a sudden they weren't playing him, and so all of a sudden they were trying to trade him. And so they would have traded him for anybody, and a lot of teams could have gotten him besides the Pistons. But now this year he is tearing it up. He is shooting back again, lighting it up, and he's also added to his game, and he's scoring, driving it to the basket better than he ever has, and he's just gotten better and better. So anyway, it's just a story of how things can change in the NBA and how things can change for players, and you see players that don't get to play and do get to play, and they struggle, and then they get better, and they have, there's lots of ups and downs. And so there are with our team, and I still say that our team, especially like that first quarter, the mental part of this game, losing all these games 24 in a row, has got to our players, and it has affected them. And so all this terrible shooting is even affecting guys like Alec Burks. He wants to score, and all of a sudden, and Isaiah Livers, he's not that bad of a shooter, but he can't. And it's affected Jaden Ivey more than anybody, because he's been jerked around by Monty so bad that it's in his head, and so he's not shooting like he could. But we just got to get a win. And so, now we go on and we play the Jazz Thursday. And so everybody points to that's the best one, but our best chance. But Lauri Markkanen's back playing. He's lighting it up. People talked about us trading for him and trading Ivey for him. But we don't have, because of this Isaiah Stewart trade has really hurt us and handcuffed us. And so we can't really trade a first round pick until I think 2029. So anyway, here's another thing I just saw. James Edwards. James Edwards loves Livers and he loves Stewart. He's a really good writer. I read his stuff every chance I get, and he's smart. And I'm real proud that he's called out Monty a little bit, not made it real obvious, but sort of, and that he needs to play Ivey more, and that the lineups need to be different maybe. But somebody put out there that Stew, the Mavericks and Celtics and Thunder were interested in Isaiah Stewart. Well, you know what? They were. It was last year, and so they're bringing it up again, and they're talking about it again, that they're interested in him, but they're not interested in him now. He hasn't played that well this year. But the other thing that happened when they were interested in him, it was last year, and even this year. This year he's making $5 million a year. So he was a great player to have come off your bench and play with energy and play tough, and every team would want a guy like that to come off your bench for $5 million a year. Well, Monty loves him even more than James Edwards does, and Monty gave him that contract when we didn't have to, because he would have been a restricted free agent for 15 or 16 million a year for 4 years. The last year's team option, so that doesn't kick in until next season. That contract doesn't start till next season. So I tell you, I can't believe for a minute that anybody will want to trade for him, except the Utah Jazz. So they're wanting to get rid of John Collins. So there's something about John Collins that's not right. Obviously, I don't think, just like Christian Wood, he's bounced around and he plays really well. So does John Collins. Their numbers are great. They're rebounding, their shooting percentage, they can shoot the three. John Collins averages 15 a game, 9 rebounds, shoots 38% on threes. Last year he had a dip because he had a hurt hand, but his whole career he's shooting that. His contract's quite big. It's like $25 million a year. So, but if we could trade Stu for him, and they would be interested. They're trying to build a young team, and Stu's a great leader, and we'd have to throw in something else, which we can do really easy. We got lots of contracts we can throw at him, and I still say it's interesting. Why I say we got to play Sasser is there. It looks like right now there would be no way we would re-sign Burks, and he's a struggle this year. He's getting older, and then we don't have Killian signed. Killian is a restricted free agent at the end of this year, so who knows what's going to happen there. and we're going to lose Joe Harris for sure. And it's just all these guards that we have, too many guards like right now. And Monty Morris, it's heartbreaking that we haven't got to find out what Monty Morris can do, because Monty Morris, but he's a free agent after this year. So hopefully we get to see what he can do. Hopefully he gets to play earlier in January than later. And the trade deadline is February 8th. And so maybe he can come in and play really well for a minute, and then we can trade him, or we can decide, hey, we want to re-sign this guy. So that's what's been disappointing about this year, amongst a million things. The biggest thing in losing, of course, but we just needed to find out more about players, and we haven't. And it has given people opportunity. And again, maybe somebody will want James Wiseman. Maybe we'll want James Wiseman. I know most of you don't, but he's shown that he's a good backup center in the NBA, and but we have Bagley signed through next year, so I just don't see us keeping both of those. Even though I even said this before the year started, that those guys are always hurt. There's always one of them hurt, and it's worrisome. So Duran has not even started practicing yet. So he was supposed to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, but they slowly ramp up guys. They have them play 3-on-3, and then they have them practice, and they have them play 5-on-5. Well, a couple times practices before they even play a game. So I don't look for him to return anytime soon. And if he's, I'm hoping that his ankles are just, he's had so many of them already in 2 years. He's had so many ankle injuries, and so that is a concern. So anyway, let's hope that we can come back and get the Jazz on Thursday. But I hope that you got to look for the things that you can enjoy in the season. Again, I love seeing Ivey attack the rim in the second half. He just wanted it. He got it. He got fouled a lot when he drove in there, and to see Cade put on a performance like that, Cade was him. The guy that we think and we debate, and obviously you got to be consistent to be great. But he showed the person that we thought that Cade Cunningham could be, and that he's going to need to be. Not No, he doesn't need to score. If he scores 40, 20, 23, 24 points a game, averages 7 assists, 4 rebounds, and 3 turnovers, that's a great player. That's a borderline all-star. And so that's all he has to do. But anyway, I thank you for listening. And again, please subscribe if be the reason that somebody feels cared for and thought of, and go Pistons.